A few times each week, I make sure to arrive early at the Resnick campus for one of my favorite parts of the day, morning drop-off at the ECC. I love watching our youngest congregants make their way, sometimes running, sometimes slowly stumbling, into the building. Usually things go smoothly and parents can fairly easily drop their children off and head out for their day. But occasionally, there is a temper tantrum or two. Many, if not all of us, know the devastating and fearsome response of the toddler temper tantrum. The screaming, the gesticulating, the throwing, the stamping, the crying. Often underneath it all is the simple frustration of not feeling heard, not feeling in control of the commotion all around. It might be a simple need for a nap, more water, or the attention of an adult, but without the ability to fully express and receive what seems desperately necessary in the moment, can you really blame the kid? When we become powerless over our lives and our world, we do not react well. Powerlessness is a terrible experience. Even as adults, to feel as though we have no control, no say, or no choice over our life or what happens to us fills us with sadness, frustration, and anger. Whether that powerlessness comes in the form of relatively minor limitations, such as being stuck on the 405 at 5 p.m., just a quarter mile from our exit, or the truly devastating losses of freedoms and opportunities. We all know that feeling. We all hate that feeling. One of the great gifts of Jewish life and tradition comes in our belief in our own capabilities, our own capacity to determine and drive our lives. The High Holy Days serve as a dedicated period to focus on taking back that control. We engage in this season by looking back on the past year to see where we went wrong, and with that reflection, we move forward by determining to do better in the year to come. As individuals, the process of teshuvah, reflecting, apologizing, and committing to improvement, gives us the power to take back control. Through teshuvah and the holiday prayers, we are meant to grab hold of this one life we have to live and to take the next steps to be the person that we want to be in the world. In moments when we could feel powerless because of our mistakes and bad habits, Jewish tradition reminds us and inspires us to make our own destiny. Yet it can be difficult to stay on that path, to maintain that sense of purpose and agency as we go through our daily life. It is easy to slip into cruise control or allow someone else's vision to push us off course. The noise from the outside world pressures us to conform, and the noise is constant, demanding, and hard to drown out. Judaism reminds us to keep our integrity and determination intact, to find our voice and our power. In the liturgy of the High Holy Days, we pray the words of Unatana Tokef, a prayer that declares the uncertainty and limitations of our fragile life and implores us to seize hold of our destiny. Most importantly, when the prayer describes how we will be judged in God's record, Chotam Yad, our own unique handprint, acts as the standard to which we are held accountable. As God judges each of us as individuals, the question asked is if we were the best version of ourselves in the past year. The question is not, were you the best version of what someone else expected you to be? But were you your best self, playing your unique role in the universe? Beyond taking control of our destiny as individuals, we also have an opportunity during the High Holy Days to take control of our people's destiny. This year, it is all the more important that we determine the unique individual and collective Jewish role in the world. This past year, in this moment in history, the Jewish people finds itself turning to a new chapter. Rising anti-Semitism, deafening anti-Israel sentiments rooted in no understanding of the actual issues or history, and pulsing fear and anxiety of attacks against Jews and Jewish communities have shaken us awake. Perhaps we saw flashes or hints of these threats lurking under the surface before October 7th, but they have emerged now, unmasked and emboldened for all to see. On top of the concern for our physical safety, we are pressured and harassed to conform to what others think we should be. This past spring, Jewish students at UCLA were blocked from entering campus spaces as they were asked by their peers, "Are you a Zionist?" At public meetings, representatives of Jewish communities were shouted down for stating that Hamas is a terrorist organization and were told, "No, you are the attackers and oppressors here, not the victims." High schools canceled workshops to teach students and educators about anti-Semitism because loud activist groups insisted that it was biased and racist to teach only about Jewish suffering. There are so many other stories like these that we have heard and will continue to hear as external forces seek to take away our voice and our place in the public discourse. It fills us with anger, shock, disappointment, sadness, and frustration, and a loss for where we go from here. Last November, I spoke with a congregant who could not wrap her mind around how many of her friends so quickly slipped into anti-Semitic tropes and anti-Zionist assumptions. As we spoke about her frustrations, she asked me, "How do we get them to like us?" I was taken aback by her question, but I answered simply, "I'm not sure that's what matters here." Our community has been presenting ourselves to and engaging with the non-Jewish world in a particular way for generations. Now that way is no longer viable for the health and safety of our people. We need to pivot. In a recent op-ed in the Times of Israel, Dr. Stephen Windmuller, an expert in Jewish communal history, political behavior, and contemporary anti-Semitism, analyzed the various challenges at this historical moment for American and global Jewry. He raised important questions about the trajectory of Jewish communal life. Dr. Windmuller believes there must be profound change to how the Jewish people and Jewish institutions respond to these challenges. Not only do we face rising hatred and hostility towards Jews in Israel, but also the loss of Jewish visibility, a loss of the political and cultural standing of Jews in American life. As different groups and forces emerge in the American political and cultural landscape, Jewish figures, ideas, and values, which were much more prominent in previous generations, are now being minimized and relegated to the margins. Gone are the days of Louis Brandeis, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and Seinfeld playing in almost every home in America. Dr. Windmuller asks, how will Jewish communities and institutions respond? Will we slip back into a minority group living in the shadows of society? Or will we find some new approach to carry on our way of religious and communal life? Just as every High Holy Day season gives each of us individually the opportunity to stop going down a path that no longer serves us and find a better way forward, this season can help us change course as a people. While we have reached a point where the way that things were will not and cannot continue, the end result of these changes has yet to be determined. We can either let the world decide for us what will happen to the Jews, or we can decide for ourselves. This moment can either freeze us with fear or inspire us to transform. Just as Teshuvah allows each individual to set a new path rooted in their integrity and best selves, so too do we as a people get to chart our course and lift up our voices, regardless of what the external world expects of us. The Jewish people have a unique purpose and destiny in the world, and that is the standard to which we are held accountable. Judaism and Jewish life does not exist for others to like us. Judaism and Jewish life exist because they are the traditions, rituals, values, history, and stories of our people that we have treasured, preserved, and added to with each generation. Judaism and Jewish life exist for Jews to live lives of meaning and purpose, guided by the wisdom of our people. We know who we are and what we stand for. We are not defined by what those who have no investment in Jewish life, no skin in the game with Israel or the safety of Jews around the world, have to say about it. We may not have power over what others think, but we certainly do control what we think of ourselves and how we choose to live with pride and dignity. It is not for others who cannot accept our history, our traditions, and values to be the final arbiters of Jewish identity and belief. This task of steering our collective destiny might seem overwhelming, but it is the power of each individual within the collective, each taking a small step forward, that moves us. To paraphrase the Dalai Lama, anyone who doubts the impact of something small in the universe has never been trapped in the room with a mosquito. At this moment of change, this community has already done so much to lead us into this new chapter by more deeply building Jewish community, showing up and investing time and energy into Jewish life. So many people here have thrown themselves into advocacy and support work, whether for the IDF, displaced Israelis, or students of all ages who need our encouragement as they are forced to fight for their place in society as Jews. Many of you have given incredibly generously to Jewish causes and organizations, including Wilshire Boulevard Temple, as we strengthen the health and security of the Jewish people. We refused to become invisible, wore a Magen David with pride, and stood our ground when others tried to silence us. Strengthening and showing up in our community combats the powerlessness we may feel. We feel more keenly that connection to fellow Jews, that comfort and sense of safety to surround ourselves with other members of our people right now. We experience a feeling of relief, of a weight lifted off our shoulders when we simply walk into the synagogue. We can let our guards down, cast aside that armor we now carry daily. When we are together as a people, we don't have to explain why we're upset that something happened to another Jew 5,000 miles away. We don't have to explain why we don't turn our backs on each other just because we disagree about politics or policies. To be a part of a people is to feel connection in a way that goes beyond rational comprehension or description. And this connection is felt whether we have been members of the Jewish people from birth or more recently by choice. When teaching our Choosing Judaism program here at Wilshire, I spoke to many people in the class who had considered conversion for years or decades, but October 7th prompted them to take action. In the words of one individual, to get off the sidelines. In spite of these challenges, people still want to become Jews and link their destiny with the Jewish people. We are already working to create the future that we hope for. Unfortunately, this coming year will likely not be much better. Earlier this week, we held our collective breath and braced for the next wave of threats and attacks against Israel. But we will continue to advocate for ourselves and our people. We will continue to fight for the causes and values of the Jewish people, educating the next generation to be proud Jews who know who they are and what they stand for. We will continue to stand up and declare, we are here, we exist, we matter, and we will not be driven into the shadows. Each Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we pray for our own teshuvah and a good, sweet new year. But we also pray for those same things for the Jewish people. Each year we write our next chapter as individuals. And this year, all the more so, we will write this next chapter for our people. Our power has always come from our resilience, our creativity, our faith and belief in ourselves to persevere, and our commitment to support and strengthen each other. In this new year, may we seize the reins of our destiny as individuals and a collective, and focus on a path of integrity, dignity, and pride in Jewish life. Shana Tova.